Hello everyone, welcome to this video, which is more of a time-lapse kind of thing, semi-tutorial I guess. This is a painting, Nude, that I've recently completed digitally. I'm working in Photoshop using a Wacom Intuos 4 tablet. Right now you can see I'm importing images. They're my own images, they're photos I took maybe 10 years ago in a garden where I was living, and why I'm doing this is simply to kill the background space, kill the white basically, to fill the canvas. It's got nothing to do with texture. It has something to do with colour though. I'm going to use the colour picker, the eyedropper tool, to grab a few of the colours from these sort of photos to use in the painting, because I find of all the source material that I've got for textures and stuff like that, I find these couple of photos sort of had the better tones and colours that I'd use on the life model. So each photo that I'm importing is making a new layer. You'll see at the top right, I've got the layers there. So here you can see my line drawing, which I'm adjusting it so it's a little bit darker. So I can, and then I adjust the opacity down to say 60-70%, so I can see it's on top of all the photos. I'm going to be working on top of the photos, but using, so that layer will be active, the photo layer will be active, but the drawing layer up top, which is semi-transparent, will be used as guideline. At the moment I'm actually painting on the guideline, which is wrong. I'll delete that very soon, and you just lock the background layer, not the background layer, the drawing layer, so you can't touch it, and that way when you blend it all together, it's not wrong. So I've colour picked from one of the photos. Once I take the eye, I deactivate the eye in the layers menu, so you're not seeing the, by clicking it, I'm not seeing the drawing layer, and I'll pick a colour, and it doesn't have to be entirely accurate as long as it's a colour. It can be red, purple, anything, as long as it's a colour and it's used to fill that space, which was white. I've got to get rid of the photo texture now, so I'm going to use just flat colours. I've used just a normal brush, size 9 brush, which I'll change in size using the tablet. I've taken the pen pressure and stuff off the tablet as well, so there's no tilt or anything like that to mimic typical brush strokes, just because I prefer to control my colours and my opacity and everything just purely by brush size and opacity, which is like opacity. Changing opacity is like mixing more medium with your paint in traditional mediums. For example, acrylics, it would just be like mixing more water, so it's just like putting a thin layer of paint over the top, and that's the beauty of digital. It's you just play around with opacity really, and brush size and zoom. You don't even really have to zoom. This image is maybe 10,000 pixels high, so it's huge. It's like 250 meg as a PSD Photoshop document. So it's huge, but that means when I zoom in to refine details, I'm maintaining detail and once it's zoomed in. So now you can see I'm refining a lot of stuff. Typically people using digital they're concept artists and stuff like that, so they've got to pump out 3 or 4 of these drawings a day, paintings a day, 365 days a year to earn their paycheck sort of thing. And this took me a full day, so I'm nowhere near up to speed. This is only my 2nd digital painting ever as well, but you know, I'm learning. And here you'll see I'm just putting some tones into the floorboards. Colours aren't entirely accurate yet, but I can put real opaque, say 5% opacity, so it's 5% of the total full colour. I guess it's much more towards the transparent side of things, whereas opaque's being completely flat colour, you can't see through it. So 5% of total flat colour means it's very, very vague colour, I guess you'd say. So I'm just working sort of wood tones, reddish, sort of cedar, polished floorboard kind of tones in there. I'm going to need a few browns by the look of it, and continuing to do that and refine. When I was mentioning before about zoom, you don't. My next painting, I'm going to just have it without zooming. So it's traditionally, it's going to look like a traditional time-lapse video that I've done before. So you're just looking straight at one view the whole time, and you can watch it develop. This is a bit annoying going through, moving around, and it's a bit hard to follow. The only disadvantage to not being able to zoom in is basically your canvas is the size of your screen, or your tablet, which may only be. I'm working on 2 24-inch screens, so I mean they're big screens, but nothing compared to a canvas. My canvas would be 2 to 4 times the surface area of that in real life. So there's not a lot more room to move. So. But without zooming, it means I've got to be a lot more free, looser, less rigid in the wrist and the elbow. So that should be interesting to be able to do that. With colour picking, just pick your few first main colours, and then it's quite hard. I can mix colours a lot better in real life, because what you're looking at on the colour picker, which you can see flash up occasionally, it's doing it now. You'll pick a colour and you'll think that's going to look great on the canvas. You'll put it on the canvas and it'll be way off. So you've got to be highly intuitive to pick colours, and you just got to sort of experiment. And because they're absolute colours too, they're not mixtures, and that's why you need to put just opaque layers, transparent and opaque layers over the top. So working at 5-10%, sometimes 20% opacity, which is what I'm doing now in these tones on the leg, just gradually builds up. And if it's too dark, you work back into it with the light, and if it gets too light, you work back into it with the black, and it all shows through in the end, even if it's only 1% of the total sort of paint value. It's still there, and that's really how you paint traditionally, unless you're an abstract artist or something like that, where you just use absolute values and it's all about, you know, your impasto, like the actual thickness of the paint, and how it's applied, and the colours and the shapes and all that kind of stuff. But obviously I'm doing a bit more rigid, sort of two-dimensional kind of stuff here, which is very illustrative. I'll admit that. It's not really fine art, but I'm trying to sort of bridge a barrier between fine art and digital, because I guess it is the way of the future. It's happening quite a bit. Digital medium is everywhere now. It'll never replace painting, simply because you know, you walk in on a 4 metre by 4 metre canvas and the paint's coming off the canvas, you know, the width of your hand, it's been put on that thick. You can't do that digitally. You never will be able to. I mean, that's powerful if you see that in a gallery or something. Digital will always, you can always tell it's digital. You look at movies, there's reflections coming off everything. It's so realistic, it's unrealistic. Because the eye can't pick up that kind of detail, but yet they put it in there thinking that they're being extremely creative or whatever, but it just ends up looking ridiculous, in my opinion. Better off using models or something for special effects, but it's cheaper to use computers. So yeah, I thought I might as well learn how to do this before I become too disenfranchised with it to ever want to learn. So I'll learn now because I'm still sort of keen to learn stuff. So here I'm dropping colour in on the model's midsection. She's quite a lean model. She's quite tall, about 5'10". So, you know, she's got thin legs, kind of almost an athletic body, I guess. And you know, I've got these greys going on here. There's a bit of purple in that, which picked up on the light. These colour values are not how they were in real life. I've made them up, but I'm following the same tones. So I have executed some form of expression in this painting. It's not totally just copying what I see or whatever. It's a lot to do with colour and sort of freedom of movement, which I express more in the hair and other features, I guess. So now I've started the hair. I'm just putting highlights in roughly where they are. You can see I've drawn them in because they are important values, because the hair's three-dimensional form. It's light's picking up certain areas. And now I'm coming in with a dark, and then I'll come in probably after that with midtones and further highlights to really bring out where the light's hitting the utmost higher part of the hair. Hair's hard to do. I love doing it though. It's like a crowning sort of part of the model. It sort of drapes over the top of the model, so it's just the way it sits. It's a difficult thing to do, but you can simplify it so it is easy. See, I'm putting individual hairs in here with a real thin brush on, like, say 10% opacity, so it just sort of, you just get a hint that there's some sort of messiness in the head around that area on the shoulder to the left of the, or to the left of the right cheek, I guess you should say. And yeah, there's some oranges and reds and some browns in there that the light's picked up. I just keep refining that until, as a whole, I think it looks good. But I mean, I could have gone on for hours more. I actually, as refined as this may look to some people, I've had to just let some details go. I've just had to go, yep, that will do, which is what I do with a lot of painting. A lot of people say the painting's never finished because you can just keep going forever. If you make a bad paint mistake in digital, you can just press undo, but in real life you just paint over the top of it. It's no big deal. You should never be precious with paintings or drawings. Just constantly just make marks, and there's no such thing really as a mistake, unless you commit to something and it absolutely turns to shit, you know. But this this I've taken step by step, so I know what it's going to look like when it's finished anyway. So there's no real surprises here. This is very run of the mill. This is how I do a traditional painting in a certain sense, except I can't stand back from it all the time because I'm zoomed in. So I think my colour's not as uniform as it could have been. Here I'm refining the face, trying to tiniest little detail changes in face can change the face significantly in a visual fashion. So you got to be careful in eye placement and stuff like that. That's why I've kept my background image there. You'll see it. I've got my background image in my layers menu, and I've got the layer 1 down the bottom. Some people will add a different layer for each highlight and stuff like that. I think that's a bit ridiculous. You shouldn't do that. Just keep one layer and work into it like a traditional painting. And that's the end of that's the painting finished. Looks okay, I think. I could keep going longer, but thanks for watching anyway. It was a fun painting to do, and I'll probably do a portrait again soon, without any kind of zoom. And you can watch the whole thing happen. Thanks for watching again. Over and out.